All right, so in this video, what we're going to do is look at the get location method that we're going to use in our onMapReady method. So what we did earlier was we put a dot at our location by checking self permissions for the find and the course location. And then if we had those permissions, if we didn't have them, we requested them. If we had them, then we checked and we set your location enabled. So we called this set my location enabled. What this ends up doing is generating a dot at your current location, and then it always runs. So what we want to do is try to limit the battery usage by only creating a location request when it's needed, so kind of on demand. All right, so we want to do this part in here. Got my location one time equals false, and then get location call. Got my location one time false, that's a Boolean, so you go up and you put it up here in your Boolean list, and then the get location is a method we're going to go over. All right, so there's two things for that: the get location, and there's a listener that we have to deal with. And like I said, this is just to do something where we can generate on-demand location fixes. All right, so here it is. We're going to set up a try-catch structure. So under our try, we do a location manager get system service. We need to get the GPS status. So if the GPS enabled, we check that by checking if our provider is enabled with the location manager GPS provider. If that's true, then I'm just going to print out a test message or a debug message out to the console through logd. And then what we'll do is, you won't do this with hints, I'm just going to give it to you. We check for the is network enabled, is provider enabled with our location manager network provider, and then again we can print something out there. Then we check to see if we're not GPS enabled or not network enabled, then we're done pretty much. There's no providers enabled, so we can't get a fix. Otherwise, what we want to do is we want to check each one individually. So we're going to check to see if our network is enabled, and in that case we want to do a permission check. So we do these a lot because we just don't want the phone to crash. So we're going to check this again in the event that maybe the user turned off the permissions, while the app was up, but maybe they were doing some other something else on it. So we do those permission checks again. This was very similar to what we did above in the onMapReady, checking the permission through the manifest for the find location to see against the package manager, and for the course location against the package manager. If those things are not permitted, so we do not have permission granted, then we just return from this. We can't do anything here. Otherwise, we do this line right here. This is the big line here. A request for our location updates, right? So we do our location manager request location updates, pass to it the network provider, and then we're going to pass this min time between updates. This is the minimum time that we want to update the position location. Okay, so as opposed to running continuously as you would with a regular map, we can set that up to be whatever we want. And in a previous video, I mentioned to how we'll set those up, those minimum times, so you can check that out. But basically, this is set up to be 5 seconds. This min distance change for updates is 0. We're not going to set up the distance there. We'll let it do it just every 5 seconds, and then we pass to it a reference to what's called the location listener for the network. Okay, so just to check our private instance or private constants are going to be the min time between updates. This is in milliseconds, so 5,000 would be 5 seconds, and then min distance change for updates would be 0. We want it to always update. And then this zoom factor at 17, you can play around with that when we end up dropping markers. That's what we'll be doing to zoom in. All right, so going back to this, we generated that request, and then I just put out a message to the console. To do GPS, it's a very similar thing. Now all you need to do is check to see if you want to request location updates with the GPS provider. We should probably do another permission check in here. I was just lazy, but this is basically what you would want to do here. And then we catch an exception, and we just print the stack in that case so we can debug. All right, the location listener. This is what's called an anonymous interclass. So it's a class within a class. So we're going to instantiate it. We're going to call it location listener network. That's what we put here for the as the reference. And it's going to be a new location listener. We can print out some. When you actually instantiate this, what it should automatically come up is there'll be 4 methods that automatically pop up, and you should see on location changed. There's another one on provider disabled, on provider enabled, and on status changed. So when we won't do anything for these two, the disabled and enabled. We'll do something for the status change, which will just say that we got an on status change callback. Something happened with the network provider. There was a status, meaning it maybe lost connectivity or had some other thing that the provider had changed in the status, data rate or some other type of parameter. The main one we want to look at is this one called on location changed. And again, this should have been auto-populated when you instantiated the location listener. What I want to do is drop a marker. If you type this in, you'll see that this is not defined yet. So you're going to be creating this on your own. We'll do this in class. And we're going to pass to it the network provider so that we can identify which one of the providers it was that called the drop marker method, so that we can color it differently, because I want to see whether it's coming from the network or from GPS. All right, if we're doing it one time, meaning we're doing it the first time that we fire up the app, we generate a position fix so that we can drop a marker where we're currently located. We check this got my location one time. If that's false, meaning we haven't gotten it yet, then what we do is we remove all the updates from this listener, and then we remove all the updates from the GPS, and we say that it's true, and then we can generate some previous lat long, so we can calculate distances, but you don't really need these guys in here. These aren't needed. You basically just have these ones here. Okay, otherwise, if we are in the first time, we do here. If any other subsequent time, we aren't in the part where we have just launched the app. Where we're at is we're in a tracking mode. Okay, so tracking mode here, then we want to see the request location updates again. This is something that I'm not sure why this is happening. This should continually update. GPS will do that, where it will continually update. So you don't really need anything in here. With the exception of for the network, we're finding that, at least in this current version of the app, that we have to kind of kick the location manager again to get this thing to update and to create a fix. So we're just going to do it again here. So all that code that was up in the get location, where we check the permissions, we check those again, and if we don't have the permission, we just return. If we do, then we request the location update again. Okay, so it'll request it again. Then once we get back in here and we've called the on location change callback, we kick it off again, and then it'll generate another call to the on location changed again for that callback, and then it'll keep going back and forth. All right, so that's what we want. This was just from before. All right, and then like I said, the on provider disable and provider enable, we don't do anything with that. The on status change, we can just print out a message that says we've got some status change. Okay, so that brings us up to going through the network. What you're going to do as an assignment is to do the GPS side of it with some hints. So I will show you some of that stuff in class, and then you'll be also creating the marker drop method here, and I'll show you how to do that in class as well.